Hello there, a very good evening and welcome to another edition of Primetime News on TV1. I'm Charlene Benedict for the Newsfirst team.
And I'm Arundhati Danayaka. Let's start off with a look at the stories making headlines this evening.
Organized conspiracy behind simultaneous gang activities. President says the government will never protect criminals. Mathura Magistrates Court orders the arrest of former IGP Deshabandhu Tennakoon. Political connections behind Midenia murder will be revealed, says Deputy Minister of Public Security. Former government spent 1.2 billion on Jayagamu Sri Lanka program, 542 million on huts. Supreme Court orders CEB to pay annual interest on consumer deposits.
Taking a look at those stories in detail, the budget allocations for the Ministry of Defence and the Ministry of Public Security and Parliamentary Affairs were approved in Parliament today. 88 members cast their vote in favour and only 10 votes were cast against. The President was in Parliament today and made a detailed statement regarding crime in the country.
ජාතික ආරක්ෂාව සම්බන්ධයෙන්ුත් විශේෂයෙන් විවිධ අවස්ථාවන් වල විපක්ෂ මන්ත්‍රීවරුන්ගෙන්
ඔබ නැගිටලා කිව්වොත් අපරාධකරුවෙගේ නමක් ඒ නම හා සම්බෙදී දේශපාලකයන් මට කියන්න පුළුවන්. මේක ඇත්ත. මේක සංගවුණු රාසක් නෙමෙයි. මේක අද විවෘතව මේ රටේ ජනතාව දන්නවා.
If you stand up and mention the name of a criminal, I am able to name the politician connected to that particular criminal. This is the truth. This is no secret. This is an open secret that the public of this country is aware of. They are even aware under which political leadership did these criminal gangs flourish. Amare, don't panic. I have arrived. Then Amare becomes silent. Amare recognizes the voice. This is how the criminal gangs grew and expanded. Who is shedding crocodile tears for the expansion of these criminal gangs? Among those arrested over the triple murder in Midenia, where a man and 2 of his children were killed, is a police constable. There are 2 police officers among those arrested over the courtroom shooting. A T-56 assault rifle from the Mount Lavinia police was stolen and handed over to underworld gangs. They had the protection of the political mechanism. Certain sections of the police are also maintaining links with these criminal gangs. We need to understand this situation. This is not an isolated incident. These criminal gangs grew and expanded freely with the protection of the politicians and the very institutions that were set up to crack down on their activities. A total of 73 T-56 assault rifles were moved from a military camp and were given to the underworld. This is the situation. 35 of those weapons have been seized and another 38 need to be seized. These weapons were not purchased during our tenure but before. However, investigations were also launched before our tenure. However, the top ranks in the former government issued an order to end the investigation into the release of these weapons from the military camp. The son of one president was issued 7 weapons by the government. I'm trying to understand their level. Then comes the matter of legally issued weapons. Some cannot be traced. Some have been taken by the Ministry of Defence and issued to Sri Lanka Police. Some have been taken from Sri Lanka Police and given to the Ministry of Defence. What is the meaning of this? The governance system that existed in the country had absolutely no responsibility with regard to security or the continuation of the state. Do you remember that? On the outside, we see the police, military, political authority, judicial system, and lawyers. However, underneath, all that is there are the armed groups, police officers who side with them, military personnel who side with them, judicial officers who side with them, as well as lawyers who side with them. While a legal state exists on the surface, a similar or lesser criminal state exists beneath the surface. What has happened is that everything was done with the assistance of these criminal gangs. However, keep this in mind. The NPP government will confront these criminal gangs and will eliminate them. We have reached a position where we have doubts. We have analyzed the recent events. One is the triple murder of a man and his 2 children in Midenia. The second is the courtroom shooting in Halsdorf. Then the shooting in Kotahena, the murder in Usatekeyava, stealing of a weapon from the Mount Lavinia court and handing it over to a criminal gang, the shooting in Minuangoda that took place earlier. If we consider all of these incidents, apart from the one that took place in Minuangoda, the rest were committed by 5 gangs. What is astounding is that 5 criminal gangs have simultaneously become active. This is something extraordinary. We have also identified 2 other instances where there can be an armed activation. One is in Batiklo, where such a situation can arise. The other is the north, because some have created armed groups that they can control. There is such a group in Batiklo, and such groups were formed in Jaffna as well. We believe that there is a planned conspiracy behind the simultaneous activation of these elements.
එක විට සක්‍රියතාවයට ගෙන ඒම පිටපස යම් සැලසුම් සාගත කුමන්ත්‍රණයක් තියෙනවා.
The Mathura Magistrates Court has issued an order for the arrest of former Inspector General of Police Deshabandhu Thennakoon. This order is in connection with the investigation into a shooting incident that occurred on the 31st of December 2023 in front of a hotel in the Palana area in Mathura. In addition to the former IGP, the court has also ordered the arrest of 8 other suspects, including Anselm de Silva, the officer in charge of the Colombo Crimes Division.
On the 31st of December 2023, opposite a hotel in Valigama, police officers attached to the Valigama police station had opened fire at a team of officers from the Colombo Crimes Division. A police sergeant attached to the CCD died in this incident. On the 27th of February 2025, the verdict of the magistrate's inquiry was delivered by the Mathura Magistrates Court. Accordingly, the shooting carried out by the officers attached to the Valigama police was for personal defense, and it was informed that legal action will not be instituted against them. However, it was noted that the deployment of the CCD personnel to the location was illegal. The court has ordered the arrest of 8 individuals, including the CCD personnel who visited the location on the day in question, and the then acting Police Inspector General Deshabandhu Thennakoon, and named them as suspects in the case. The CID is to proceed with the court order.
Colombo Chief Magistrate Tanuja Lakmali today ruled that the death of Ganemullah Sanjeeva was caused by multiple gunshot wounds to the chest, neck and abdomen. She gave this judgment at the conclusion of a 2-day magistrate's inquiry into the incident.
The Colombo Crimes Division presented the post-mortem report on the death of notorious crime boss Ganemullah Sanjeeva to the court. Chief Magistrate Tanuja Lakmali ruled that the death of Ganemullah Sanjeeva was caused by multiple gunshot wounds to the chest, neck and abdomen. She stated that the decision was based on the findings and observations presented during the magistrate's inquiry as well as the post-mortem report submitted by the Colombo Judicial Medical Office. During the second day of the inquiry, Dilrukshi Samararatna, the sister of the deceased Sanjeeva Kumara Samararatna, aka Ganemullah Sanjeeva, provided testimony. The inquiry was conducted under the supervision of officers from the Colombo Crimes Division. Translated excerpt from testimony.
Sanjeeva was my brother. Before this incident, he was in the Bosa prison. I visited him twice a week. I was unaware of the cases against him. On the 19th, I did not know he was brought to the Colombo Magistrates Court for a case. Around 10:30 to 11 a.m., I received a call informing me that he had been shot. I immediately contacted lawyer Lakshman Pereira, who said that he heard about the shooting. Later, I learned that he had been shot in the court. On the 20th, I attended the post-mortem examination at the Colombo Judicial Medical Office, where I identified the deceased as Sanjeeva Kumara Samararatna. Subsequently, I gave a statement to the Kisarwata police. My mother and I then took the custody of the body.
End of translated excerpt. Lawyers representing the aggrieved party emphasized the necessity of a thorough investigation into the shooting incident involving Sanjeeva Kumara Samararatna. They called for an urgent inquiry inquiry into the actions of the prison officers and the special task force officers assigned to his security. After considering all the presented evidence, the Chief Magistrate declared the cause of death and ordered the issuance of the relevant death certificate. The case is scheduled to be called again on the 7th March. Meanwhile, the Colombo Crimes Division has recorded statements from 15 officers of the Bussa prison who were involved in transporting Ganemula Sanjeeva to court. This was done with the permission of the Colombo Chief Magistrates Court. Statements were also recorded from the prison officers, special task force officers and officers in charge of the court's holding cell who were involved in transporting Ganemula Sanjeeva from Bussa prison to the court. A woman and a man have been arrested in connection with a shooting incident that injured an individual in the Thanduwana area in Minuwangoda. The suspects aged 46 and 30 are residents of Jayada and were apprehended by the Gampaha Division Crime Investigation Unit. 2 suspects have been arrested in connection with the murder of an individual in Kotahena. 1 suspect was apprehended in St. Rita's Road, Mount Lavinia by the Mount Lavinia Division Crime Investigation Unit. The police seized 15 grams of heroin, 6 fake number plates, 3 forged revenue licenses and 3 fake insurance certificates from the suspect. The police reported that the suspect arrested on the 23rd was remanded until tomorrow for further questioning. During the interrogation, a stolen motorcycle was recovered from Egoda Uyana, which had been hidden in Mala Bay. The suspect confessed that the fake number plates were installed on the motorcycle under the instructions of a drug trafficker residing abroad. The police revealed that the motorcycle was used in the murder in Kotahena on the 21st. The individual who stole the motorcycle was arrested in Katukurunda. The 43-year-old suspect is also a resident of the Katukurunda area.
What steps have been taken to curb crime? These views were expressed in Parliament today.
The Criminal Investigations Department has apprehended a total of 680 suspects in its ongoing crackdown on crime since the 21st of September 2024. These suspects have been produced before courts. In connection with 14 complaints of computer crimes received in 2025, 297 local and foreign suspects have been arrested and brought before courts. As part of the efforts to combat organized crime in 2025, 8 suspects have been extradited from abroad and produced in court. Of these, 5 suspects were brought to Sri Lanka based on red notices. Therefore, no one can question the actions we have taken over the past 3 months. For the past 15 to 20 years, there are numerous politicians in this country who facilitated the development of the underworld and organized crime in the country. From the 21st of September 2024 to the 26th of February 2025, there have been 44 shooting incidents and 23 murders. Additionally, 12 stabbings have occurred along with 8 other murders. A total of 14 T-56 type weapons have been seized within this period from September 21st, 2024 to the 26th of February 2025. Furthermore, 21 pistols, 78 12-bore guns and 17 revolvers have been confiscated along with 840 other firearms, bringing the total number of weapons seized to 994 during this time frame. This house was attempting to shift the national security discourse to one that involves the underworld. J.R. Jayawardena released a man who was in prison. He was made a justice of the peace for the entire nation, and then he used that man, Godawala Sunil, to pelt stones at judges of the Supreme Court. Later, during the time of R. Premadasa, after revealing the identities of those involved in malpractices, Richard Soiza was kidnapped and murdered. This was how the underworld was maintained at that time. During Chandrika Bandaranayaka Kumaratunga's era, underworld activities were carried out by Navala Nihal on her behalf. During the Mahinda Rajapaksa administration, Wambotta and Julampitiya Amare were supported by none other than the Rajapaksa family. Julampitiya Amare was the bodyguard of parliamentarian Namal Rajapaksa, and he opened fire at a meeting held by our comrade Nalinda Jayatissa and killed 3 people. This is why Julampitiya Amare is currently in prison. While the underworld was being maintained and fed by these groups, they are now the same ones who, after benefiting from the support of the underworld, are accusing this 91-day government of failing to suppress crime. Yes, there are certain groups headed by Kudu Anju, Ratgama Vidura, Kosgoda Suji, Kudusalinda, Lokupati, Kehel Badara Padme, Badovita Asanka and Lalit Kanangara. This is indeed true. However, in the past, these individuals were supported by all political authorities. We are now searching through the police departments to uncover any remaining clues or connections. We are proud to say that for the first time in history, a political movement has emerged that is not supporting these gangs.
මේ කල්ලි කණ්ඩායම් නඩත්තු කරන්නේ නැති දේශපාලන ව්‍යාපාරයක් හැදිලා තිනවා.
නාමල් රාජපක්ෂගේ ආරක්ෂාවට පාතාලෙන් ඉඳලා තියෙනවා කියලා. ඉතින්
I have seen people making allegations that Namal Rajapaksa had security guards who were members of the underworld. If such claims are true, then let them be said clearly instead of merely displaying a picture at a meeting and claiming that the person in the photo is my security guard. Why can't this government, which is promoting a new political culture, address the issue in a more constructive manner, backed by facts and figures? Now you are removing parliamentary privileges, which is commendable. They have also eliminated insurance benefits. Let's all come together and remove the privilege of lying in this parliament. If necessary, we will bring it forward as a private member's bill, or the government can introduce it. At the very least, it should be punished under civil law.
අඩුම ගානේ සිවිල් අපරාධ සිවිල් නීති යටතේ දඩුවම් දෙන්න. දැන් මතක් වෙලා තියෙනවා පෞද්ගලික മന്ത്രി යෝජනාවක් හරි.
Now he has finally remembered to at least bring forward a private member's bill to put an end to lying. Yes, let's stop it and take action. I also urge those in the opposition not to lie for just 5 minutes and then leave. They established a parliament with a large majority after the Easter Sunday attack, using the Easter Sunday attack. They were in power for 2 years after that. They did nothing during those 2 years and are talking about it now. The father of that parliamentarian, when the narcotics unit went to seize drugs, flew in a helicopter to the minister's house and gave the officers a signal not to seize the drugs. Now the son of that very same person is coming forward and speaking about synthetic drugs. Moreover, the second-ranking official in the government, the Prime Minister, issued a note advising authorities not to inspect a drug container when it was being released. The governments that were responsible for such actions are now the ones attempting to lecture us.
එහෙම කරපු ආණ්ඩු දැන් අද ඇවිල්ලා දේශනා කරනවා. මේ ආණ්ඩුව දිගින් දිගටම කිව්වා.
This government has consistently claimed that certain politicians have ties to the underworld. We demand that the government immediately expose any politician found to have such connections and take legal action against them.
වහාම අය එළිදරව් කරලා නීතිය ක්‍රියාත්මක කරන්න.
ඉතා නොබෝධි
We hope to reveal the identities of the politicians involved in the Middenia murder soon. Case file.
The Committee on Public Enterprises has launched an investigation into the expenditure of 1.2 billion rupees by the Foreign Employment Bureau on the Jalgama Sri Lanka program initiated by the previous government. During the investigation, it was revealed that 542 million rupees were spent solely on exhibition stalls. The COPE inquiry also uncovered significant price variations when the same stall was transported and set up in different cities.
On the 15th and 16th October 2022, a job fair was held at the Samala Stadium in Galle. 30 stalls were purchased from one organization for 170,000 rupees. Subsequently, on the 15th and 16th July 2023, another job fair was held in Jaffna, where a stall was purchased from the same organization for 500,000 rupees. This resulted in an additional expenditure of 330,000 rupees for a single exhibition stall. Was there a procurement process for this?
ප්‍රසම්පාදන ක්‍රියාවලියක් සිද්ධ වුණාද?
කාර්යාංශයෙන් සිද්ධ වුණේ. දැන් අමාත්‍යාංශයෙන්ද මේ මුදල් ගෙව්වේ කාර්යාංශයෙන්ද?
කාර්යාංශ. අපිට අවශ්‍ය බෝඩ් ඇප්‍රූවල්, ගණන් දීමේ නිලධාරියාගේ ඇප්‍රූවල්, ඒ හැම දෙයක්ම සහිතව කොටේෂන් ඇහිල්ලා, ඉන්වොයිසස් ඇහිල්ලා, සහභාගී වෙච්ච ආයතනවල නල් ලිස්ට් ඇහිල්ලා, ඒ ඔක්කොම ඇතුළත් වවුචර් එකක් තමයි හම්බුනේ. ඒ වවුචර් එකට අදාළව තමයි අපි පේමන්ට්ස් කරලා තියෙන්නේ. අමාත්‍යාංශයේ ප්‍රොකියුමන්ට් කරා කියන ලිඛිත දැනුම් දීමත් එක්ක තමයි අපි
මේ මුදල කරන්නේ නැතිනම් එන ගෙවීමක් මේක ගෙවන්න කියලා කිව්වොත් කොහෙන් හරි දැනකින් ඒක ඔබතුමාලා බාර අරගෙන ගෙවනවද? ඔබතුමාලා ගෙවනවා නම් ඒකට අවශ්‍ය වෙන සහතිකයේ උත්තර ටික බලය දීම සහතික කිරීම ගෙවීම, නිර්දේශ කිරීම මේ ඔක්කොම තවත් බාහිර පුද්ගලයෙක් කරපු එකකට මේ ආයතනයෙන් ගෙවනවද? ගෙවීමට හැකියාවක් තියෙනවද? මේ කියන්නේ කියන ඕනෑම ගෙවීමකට ආයතනය ගෙවනවද?
procurement decision එකක් ඇවිල්ලා නැහැ. නමුත් ප්‍රධාන ගණන් දීමේ නිලධාරීන් විදිහට රේඛීය අමාත්‍යාංශයේ වකට හිටපු ලේකම්තුමා විසින් මෙන්න මේ ආයතනය තෝරාගත්තා. මේ ආයතනයට සෙසාර මුදල් මගින් ගෙවීම් කරන්න කියලා අවස්ථා කිහිපයකදීම අපිට ඩිරෙක්ටිව් දීලා තියෙනවා ලියුම් වලින්. ඒ ලියුම් අපි ළඟ තියෙනවා.
ලේකම්තුමා විසින් එවනලගේ ලිපියට අවසානයේ සඳහන් කරනවා අපි පොඩ්ඩක් කතා කරලා ඩිලේ එකක් වුණාම එතුමා ඊළඟ සැරේදී ලියුමක් අපිට එවනවා. එසේ වීමට අසමත් ආයතන අමාත්‍යාංශයේ විධානයන්ට අනුකූල නොවන ආයතන වශයෙන් සලකා කටයුතු කරන බවට වැඩිදුරටත් දන්නම් කියලා. ඒතකොට ඒ වෙලාවට මට මේක අවබෝධ වුණා මේක ඉතාමත් බරපතල ලෙස තර්ජනය කිරීමක් හා සමානයි කියලා අවබෝධයෙන් තමයි තියෙන්නේ. ගාල්ලෙකට කරලා තියෙනවා ලක්ෂ 51ක් හට් වලට විතරයි. ඊට පස්සේ ජැක්නවට ලක්ෂ 125ක්. ඒතකොට මෙච්චර වියදමක් කරලා මේ කරපු වැඩසටහන් දෙකේ කොච්චර අපි ශ්‍රමිකයෝ හඳුනාගෙන විදේශගත කරලා තියෙනවද මෙච්චර වියදමක් දැරලා.
ඒක නෙමෙයි ගාල්ල වැඩසටහනේ රැකියා ඒජන්සි ආයතන වලට යොමු වෙලා තියෙනවා 10823ක් 2024 12:31 වනට 405 දෙනෙක් රට ගිහිලා තියෙනවා.
452.
405.
ඒගොල්ලන්ට මෙහි ඉඳන් ওই සල්ලි ටික දුන්නා ඊට වැඩි ලාභයක්.
ඒකට ඒ වෙනකොට සභාපතිතුමනි රට බැංක්‍රප්ට් වෙලා තිබුණේ බංකොලොත්තු කියලා නම් කරපු වෙලාවේ ඒ වංචා කරපු හැටි. ඒකට අපි තේරුම් ගන්න ඕනේ මේක තමයි වුණේ කියන එක.
2024 අවුරුද්දේ කරපු ලිස්ට් එක මගේ ළඟ තියෙනවා. දිස්ත්‍රික්ක 24ක කරලා තියෙනවා මිලියන 542.8ක් වියදම් කරලා තියෙනවා ස්ටෝල්ස් වලට විතරක්.
යූත් එකේ ගොඩක් වැඩ පටන් ගන්න තිබ්බ 2024 ජනවාරි අගෝස්තු මාසයේ. කියන්නේ පූර්ව ජනාධිපතිවරුන්ගේ කාල පරිච්ඡේදයේ. ඒක යූත් එකේ මුළුමනින්ම මිලියන 539ක් ඒකට වෙන් කරලා තිබ්බා.
දැන් මෙතන මේ මිලියන 542 2024 අවුරුද්දේ ඔය අදාළ කාලයට ආවේ ස්ටෝල්ස් වලට විතරයිනේ.
ඔව්.
හරි. ටෝටල් වියදම කොච්චර විතරද?
ටෝටල් වියදම තියෙනවා බිලියන 1.25.
බිලියන 1.2ක්.
ඒ කියන්නේ ජනාධිපතිවරණයක් වෙනුවෙන් මේ ආයතන පද්ධතිය මෙහෙवला තියෙනවා.
කැබිනට් එක තීරණය කරන්නේ වැඩසටහන කරන්නනේ.
මේක දාන්නේ මනුෂ්‍යනායකකාර. ඒ කැබිනට් පේපර් එකේම දාලා තිනවා කලින් මේක ප්‍රසම්පාදන ක්‍රියාවලිය දාලා තෝරගෙන තියෙන කියලා කැබිනට් පේපර් එකේ දාලා තියෙනවා.
එහෙම ලියලා නැහැ. මේ කැබිනට් පේපර් එකේ බොඩි එකේ එහෙම ලියලා නැහැ. ඒකේ ඉස්සෙල්ලාම තෝරාගත් කියන කෙන්නේ කෙලින්ම අනුමැතිය කියලා දාන යෝජනාව විතරයි.
අපි අමාත්‍යාංශ ලේකම්තුමිය මේ නිර්දේශය කරමු. ඔබතුමිය දැන් ওই විදිහේ විදිහට ප්‍රොකියුමන්ට් ඔක්කොම අනුමත කියන සියල්ල ඇවිල්ලා තියෙන අමාත්‍යාංශෙන්නේ. අමාත්‍යාංශයේ සතුව තියෙන්න ඕන. ඊට අදාළ ඩොකියුමන්ට් ඔක්කොම පිළිවෙලින් තියෙන්න ඕන. බලය ලැබුණේ කොහොමද නේ? යෝජනාව කොහොමද? බලය ලැබුණේ කොහොමද? ඩොකියුමන්ට් එක කොහොමද කරේ? ඩොකියුමන්ට් එකේ තිබිච්ච නිර්දේශ මොනවද? කී දෙනෙක් බිට් කරලා දෙනවද නේද? ඔක්කොම තොරතුරු ටික තියෙන්නේ බෑ. ඒකට ඔබතුමිය මේ සම්බන්ධ වාර්තාවක් අපිට සති දෙකක් මේ
Newsfirst with the people.
The Supreme Court has directed the Ceylon Electricity Board to pay annual interest on security deposits collected from consumers when providing electricity connections. This order was issued today in response to a fundamental rights petition filed by the Ceylon Electricity and Renewable Energy Consumers Association requesting that the CEB pay annual interest on these deposits as mandated by the Ceylon Electricity Board Act.
The petition was heard before a three-member bench comprising Justices S. Sirasa, Sobhita Rajakaruna and Menaka Vijayasundara. Representing the petitioners, Attorney at Law Ravindranath Dabare argued that under Section 28, Subsection 2 of the Electricity Act, the CEB is obligated to pay annual interest on the deposits collected from consumers for electricity connections. In a motion filed on the 30th of January last year, CEB stated that it had decided to pay an annual interest rate of 11.67% as approved by the Central Bank of Sri Lanka for the period starting from the 1st of January 2023 to the 31st of January 2023. This decision was also approved by the Public Utilities Commission. Following the agreement reached in the motion, the court ordered the CEB to pay annual interest to both domestic consumers and other electricity users at the rates determined by the Central Bank of Sri Lanka.
Passports being issued in Sri Lanka was taken up for debate in Parliament today.
අද වෙනකොට මේ ගුවන් ගමන් බලපත්‍ර එහෙම නැත්නම් පාස්පෝර්ට් නිකුත් කරන එක විශාල ලෙස ප්‍රශ්නයක් බවට පත් වෙලා තිබෙනවා.
Currently, obtaining a passport has become a significant issue. Although it is claimed that 4,000 passports are issued daily, when we visit the office, we see the immense struggle people face to get a passport. I am not saying this problem was created by you. It was inherited from the previous government, but it continues to persist, and that is the issue. Our passports are now handled by two companies. We pay $4.75 to one company and $1.45 to another for the personal data page. The company handling the personal data page has been issuing our passports for 24 years without a tender. The cost for the new passport is $5.89. Due to this dual handling, the government is paying an additional 53 cents per passport, resulting in a loss of 119 million rupees. Previously, one company handled everything. Now one company issues the passport and another handles the personal data page. The combined cost is $6.42 per passport. The previous red passport, which cost 20,000 rupees, had 64 pages. The new blue passport has only 48 pages. Yet people are paying 667 rupees extra. This issue remains unresolved. If someone takes this matter to court, these passports could be invalidated, forcing the government to reissue them. The current passports do not meet international standards. They lack all countries' label and contain spelling mistakes such as Yapahua and Talemanar being misspelled. We have information that you are planning to issue 110,000 of these passports.
මේ තොරතුරු අපිට දැන් ආයි තොරතුරු දෙනවා දැන් තමුන්නාන්සලා ලක්ෂ 11ක් මේ පාස්පෝර්ට් එක ගන්න හදනවා කියලා. ලක්ෂ 11ක්. මේ එකක්වත් අපේ ආණ්ඩු කාලයත් එක්ක දේවල් නෙවෙයි.
This issue did not arise during our administration. The passport problem was created during the 10 years of the Kohotua, SJB and ULP governments. The company handling the security features charged $1.45. We have not followed the long-standing procedures. The previous cabinet made a decision and recently an agreement was reached in court. The Attorney General has drafted an agreement to provide the machine-readable series and pay a certain amount to the printing company. We have not paid a single rupee to the company yet. We are not ready to take the blame for this. We have a backup to issue 120,000 passports. We have been issuing them 24 hours a day.
අපි වහාම ප්‍රවිශ්‍යාතර සේවාව දියත් කරලා තියෙනවා. දැන් මම අහන්නේ
Minister, I'm asking if you acknowledge that there was significant corruption during the issuance of the previous blue passports and if you will take legal action regarding this.
දූෂණ වංචාවක් සිද්ධ වෙලා තිබෙනවා. ඒ පිළිබඳව ඔබතුමාලා නීත්‍යානුකූල ක්‍රියාමාර්ග ගන්නවද? ඇත්ත වශයෙන්ම දූෂණ ක්‍රියා සිද්ධ වෙච්ච ඉන්න තමයි උසාවියට ගිහිල්ලා ඒ විමර්ශන සිද්ධ වෙන්නේ.
A blessing ceremony was held for former President Mahinda Rajapaksa at Carlton House.
A special blessing ceremony was held at the Carlton House in Tangol, seeking blessings for the former President Mahinda Rajapaksa. Last night, a Pirit chanting ceremony was conducted in the presence of the Mahasangha. This event, named the Blessing Ceremony of DOT, was organized to invoke blessings for the former President. Former President Mahinda Rajapaksa, along with his family members and relatives, attended the ceremony. Today at noon, an almsgiving ceremony was also held for the Mahasangha.
In the heart of the Vallavaya Divisional Secretariat of the Munaragala district lies the Viharayara Primary School, a beacon of hope in one of the most remote and challenging areas in the country. One of the most pressing issues here is the lack of access to clean drinking water. From today, the tides change for the entire community.
The Viharayaya Primary School, located in the Vallavaya Divisional Secretariat of the Munaragala district, can be termed as one of the more rural of places. Despite facing numerous challenges, the 120 students of this remote school continue to pursue their education with unwavering determination. In this remote area, the school and nearby villages have long struggled with brackish water from tube wells. This issue has led to a high incidence of kidney disease among residents, with a recent diagnosis affecting one of the school's students. Responding to a heartfelt request from the school's principal, the Gammatha team initiated the installation of a water filtration system to serve both the school and the surrounding community. Thanks to the generous financial support of Dr. Parakum Ovitigula from Mirihana Nuveguda, this vital project came to fruition.
Our school has a child suffering from cancer and another child from the village is afflicted with kidney disease. Many villages are also affected by kidney ailments. The generous donation from Gammadda has been a lifeline and a great relief for all of us.
There are several reasons why I chose to work with Gammadda. The primary reason is the transparency in their operations. Secondly, the meticulous care they take in their projects is something I deeply value. They ensure that not a single cent is wasted. Gammadda does everything with a genuine intention. The strength of Gammadda lies in the people who believe in making a difference for our community. They identify the problems, find solutions and ensure that every penny is well spent. This is why none of Gammadda's projects have failed in over a decade.
Among those in attendance were Venerable Chandima Thero, the incumbent of the Gangarama temple in Veherayaya, Valavaya Divisional Secretary K.K. Kavindra Malani, Valavaya Divisional Director of Education H.T. Dharmasiri, and the Principal of Veherayaya Primary School W.D.D. Nishanti, as well as Newsfirst Assistant Manager Jagannath Khanna and Gammadda General Secretary Prasanna Thukorala.
The Colombo Grand Mosque has announced that as the new moon has not been sighted, the month of fasting for Ramadan will commence on Sunday, the 2nd of March. In more local news, the IMF Executive Board is set to consider Sri Lanka's third review of the current program today.
The third review under the Extended Fund Facility for Sri Lanka will be taken up by the Executive Board of the International Monetary Fund. On November 23, 2024, IMF staff and the Sri Lankan authorities reached a staff-level agreement on the third review of Sri Lanka's EFF program. Once the third review is approved by the IMF's Executive Board, Sri Lanka will have access to about $333 million in financing. In March 2023, the Executive Board of the International Monetary Fund approved a 48-month extended arrangement under the Extended Fund Facility with an amount of 2.286 billion SDR.
Dr. Indrajit Kumaraswamy, the former governor of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, pointed out that while the country has made significant progress, there is no room for complacency. He was speaking at the 46th anniversary of the Sri Lanka Export Credit Insurance Corporation.
So we've got through the program very successfully so far. In addition, the debt restructuring is now pretty much completed. And I don't think many of us realize how complex that was. So the country has gone through a lot, come out of it very successfully so far, but there's absolutely no grounds for complacency. Because we are still very much, I would say, more closer to the beginning rather than the end of getting to the point where we need to be. You know, and one thing that is really noteworthy is, unusually for Sri Lanka, across 3 presidencies, we have managed to have consistency in the policy framework.
Speaking at the 46th anniversary of the Sri Lanka Export Credit Issuance Corporation, Dr. Kumaraswamy pointed out that Sri Lanka has undergone 17 IMF programs reflecting the persistent macroeconomic stress. He attributed this stress to the government's budgetary outcomes driven by a combination of populist policies and an entrenched entitlement culture.
17 IMF programs reflects that fact, the fact that we were constantly having macroeconomic stress. So what has been done about that? So if you recall, the underlying cause of the macroeconomic stress invariably has been the government's budgetary outcome. we've had a toxic combination of populist policies and an entrenched entitlement culture amongst the people. And the two have fed off each other. And we've had a kind of negative feedback loop which has dragged the country down time and again. And each time we have an IMF program, we make some progress. And we've been here before in terms of doing the stabilization well. But as soon as an election comes, everything gets reversed. Lee Kuan Yew said elections in Sri Lanka are auctions of non-existent resources. You know, there is a tendency in Sri Lanka to say that the macroeconomic management is the business of the Treasury and the Central Bank and leave it aside. You have seen when the macro goes wrong, everybody suffers. Everybody suffers. So the public sector, the private sector, civil society, everybody, if they see these laws being loosened or relaxed or diluted, the whole country should shout. Because this fiscal rule is critical. But on top of that, invariably what happened in the past is that the large budget deficits pumped excess demand into the system, which caused inflation and leaked into imports and put pressure on the balance of payments.
Mahinda Sirivadana, Secretary to the Treasury, praised the government's pragmatic approach, emphasizing the importance of fiscal policy discipline and reform continuity.
I hope we never forget policy errors that led us to this sort of crisis and the incredible difficulty that had to be endured to get to where we are today. The words of Spanish-American philosopher George Santayana, I quote, "Those who do not learn from history are condemned to repeat it," I unquote, would be true in Sri Lanka's present context. With that said, today I want to focus a little bit on the future. As you know, the 2025 budget is now being debated, and it can be characterized as a milestone budget. The government had the difficult task of ensuring the budget can help catalyze economic growth, whilst ensuring that this occurs without compromising hard-earned economic stability. You know how hard it was to come here. By taking a pragmatic stance, by ensuring continued fiscal policy discipline and reform continuity, the government has facilitated economic stability and all of the benefits arising from such stability. It is to the credit of the government that the political leadership very quickly understood the importance of macroeconomic discipline and the importance of reform continuity. At the same time, the budget focuses on the key priorities of the new government's policies reflected in the manifesto. The debt restructuring process came to a conclusion in last December after strenuous efforts, of course advised by Dr. Kumaraswamy as well, culminating in the sovereign credit rating upgrades by both Fitch and Moody's. This will provide a major boost to the ability of Sri Lankan firms to engage with global financial markets at a lower cost. As fiscal stability and macroeconomic conditions continue to improve, we expect credit ratings to continue to improve and financial conditions to ease further. There's no time to be complacent, but we have to work hard. A reversal of policy reforms and a slippage in fiscal and monetary discipline can very easily lead to a vicious cycle, which can rapidly result in a return to economic distress. Continued revenue enhancement and meeting primary budget balance targets is central to persistent economic stability.
Sri Lanka's central bank has issued a warning on unauthorized use of the term finance in business names.
The Central Bank of Sri Lanka has issued a public notice reminding individuals and businesses of the legal restrictions on the use of the terms finance, financing or financial. According to Section 10(2) of the Finance Business Act, number 42 of 2011, only authorized finance companies and specified institutions are permitted to use these terms in their names or business descriptions. The CBSL emphasized that any person or entity using these terms without prior written approval from the central bank is in violation of the Act. Such contraventions are considered offences under Section 56(4) of the Act. The public is strongly advised to comply with these legal requirements to avoid penalties.
An Islamic summit themed Islam and Buddhism kicked off in Phnom Penh, Cambodia. One of the notable invitees at the forum is Venerable Banakalopati Satara, the President of the Mahabodhi Society of Sri Lanka.
The first ever Islamic summit in Cambodia, organized by the Muslim World League under the theme Islam and Buddhism, commenced in Phnom Penh. The event has attracted 180 delegates from 31 countries. The opening ceremony was presided over by the Prime Minister of the Kingdom of Cambodia. The Prime Minister emphasized that peace and stability are essential for social harmony, allowing people to live joyfully, happily and prosperously while respecting their respective religious beliefs. Venerable Banakalopati Satara, the Chief Sanghanayaka of Japan and President of the Mahabodhi Society of Sri Lanka, attended the event as a special invitee.
Today, I can see the yellow robe and black hats in this audience. But if you take maybe about 40 years, 50 years, 60 years before, you won't be able to see that we can sit together. We have our own way of life, and you have your own way of life, and there are some walls in between us. But it was broken by the Muslim World League few years ago, especially by the doctor, our friend Dr. bin Abdul Karim al-Islam.
On the sidelines of the summit, he met with several leaders of the Islamic world, further prompting interfaith dialogue and understanding.
A media briefing by the Japan-Sri Lanka Technical and Cultural Association was held yesterday to announce the launch of the prestigious Jaztekar Awards 2025.
The Japan-Sri Lanka Technical and Cultural Association held a media briefing to announce the launch of Jaztekar Awards 2025.
The organization mainly is the forefront of strengthening the relationship between Sri Lanka and Japan. Jaztekar is identifying different personas from the companies, organizations, different institutes, even the government or the private sector, and we send them in a subsidized, because Japanese government is subsidizing all these training programs, as well as even any organization needs to, for their own, the special training programs that also be arranged by the AOTS.
The focus area of Jaztekar Awards is to elevate industry standards by encouraging organization to adopt that advanced 5 years methodologies. So broaden participation by attracting diverse range of companies across industries and refine evaluation criteria for excellency. Additionally, the Jaztekar Awards will place great emphasis in expanding expert-led training session and strength awareness 5 years benefits to its impact human efficiency and productivity, finally get the profitability of the business.
The award ceremony will feature 3 key award categories, which are Taiki Akimoto 5S Awards 2025, Nagaki Yamamoto Kaizen Awards 2025, and CSR Sustainability Awards 2025.
In our developing story tonight, Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky arrived in Washington late Thursday to sign a deal granting the U.S. access to Ukraine's rare minerals. Now, before the meeting, U.S. President Donald Trump walked back comments in which he called Zelensky a dictator and blamed him for the Ukrainian war.
Mr. President, do you still think that Mr. Zelensky is a dictator?
Did I say that?
I can't believe I said that. Next question.
A few days ago, the US president falsely branded Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky as a dictator who started Russia's war in Ukraine and had no cards to play. But on Friday, the Ukrainian war hero will get a full White House welcome. The Ukrainian president is traveling to Washington to sign an agreement for the US to exploit Ukraine's rare earth mineral resources. The first draft of the deal looked a lot like colonial-style pillage being forced upon a desperate nation. Zelensky refused to sign it, warning he couldn't sell out his nation's wealth. Trump had claimed he could make $500 billion to pay back US taxpayers for the military and financial lifeline to Ukraine after the Russian invasion. The latest version appears far less onerous for Ukraine, which initiated discussions with the US last year about using its mineral stocks to finance the rebuilding of its devastated cities and infrastructure. There's talk of a joint reconstruction fund, but no mention of Trump's initial claim for a $500 billion value, which was a perfect metaphor for a foreign policy vision that sees the world as a real estate deal. Zelensky is styling the agreement as only a framework for a future pact, largely because he's trying to leverage Ukraine's mineral wealth for future US security guarantees he sees as vital to the survival of any eventual peace deal.
The jail leader of Turkey's outlawed Kurdistan Workers' Party, Abdullah Öcalan, has made a historic call for the party to lay down its arms, dissolve itself and end its decades-long conflict with the Turkish state. A delegation of Turkey's pro-Kurdish DEM party on Thursday visited the island prison where Öcalan has been held since 1999 and later delivered his statement in a nearby Istanbul.
Abdullah Öcalan, the jailed leader of the outlawed Kurdish group PKK, has called on his movement to lay down its arms and dissolve itself. His statement, read out in a letter by MPs from a pro-Kurdish party, was aimed at ending 4 decades of armed struggle in southeastern Turkey, in which tens of thousands of people have been killed. Öcalan, aged 75, had earlier met the MPs for several hours on İmralı, an island in the Sea of Marmara southwest of Istanbul, where he has been imprisoned in solitary confinement since 1999. In his letter, Öcalan explained his decision by saying that the PKK had been formed during a period where the Turkish state restricted Kurdish rights, but that Kurdish identity was no longer denied in Turkey, and there had been improvements in freedom of expression. Turkey has in recent decades removed restrictions on the use of the Kurdish language and the free expression of Turkish identity, particularly since the AK party came to power in 2002. However, detractors say that the state has not gone far enough in granting more rights for Kurds in Turkey.
And with that, we wrap up tonight's edition of Primetime News.
Thank you very much for stopping by. Good night.
Good night.